ladies and gentlemen. It's awesome to see so much of the community interested and wanting to be informed about such an important topic. We are co-sponsoring this event with SI Bidwell Rancho, which is our sister club. And for those of you that don't know, Seroptimus International is a nonprofit service organization whose mission is to improve the lives of women and children, locally and globally. Our two clubs locally raise our funds, which is, I think, cumulative of about $130,000. We raise to give back to our community, to put on events like this, and we raise that money through our Brew Fest, which is Bidwell Rancho, and also the Spring Home Garden and Leisure Show. So I invite you to attend both of those and support this. I'd like to take this time to introduce you to Vicki. Vicki, would you please come on up? Hers is a heart-wrenching story that most mothers never want to experience.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. It's gorgeous outside, and I'm going to be truthful. I would rather be anyplace else other than here talking about domestic minor sex trafficking. Unfortunately for me, this hit home for us in a very real way. About 5 years ago, my 17-year-old daughter asked to go to the grocery store to buy a soda, and it was during spring break. She's cognitively and developmentally delayed, and that's just a fancy term for saying that her mental capacity to reason the if this, then that is diminished. So while 17 in body, she maybe was the function of a 13-year-old or 14-year-old, but definitely wouldn't be able to tell it by looking at her. And so for her spring break, her big thing to do was she asked one night to go to the grocery store to buy a soda. And it was in the parking lot of our local grocery store in our small little tight-knit community of El Dorado Hills. And my daughter was taken. And within 5 hours, her perpetrator had taken pictures of her and posted her for sale for sex on Craigslist. And within 12 hours, was actively selling her in the Rockland area. And over the course of 8 days, she was trafficked from the Rockland area to the Bay Area, where she was sold to vicious, vicious pimps. Fortunately for my daughter, she had a community and a family that rallied to find her, that were actively seeking her, even when at first law enforcement was very hesitant to even entertain the thought that perhaps she was something more than just a runaway. Me being her mother, knowing all along that my daughter did not choose to leave, that the only way she would not be home and the only way she would not have contact with us is if someone was not allowing her to do so. And so I reached out to my community. And I had help putting up missing persons posters. I had friends contacting local emergency rooms. The media became involved. And somebody who knew somebody gave the information about my daughter's disappearance to somebody within the FBI. And within 24 hours, the special task force located my daughter being sold on Craigslist at a motel in the Bay Area. That team will forever hold a special place in my heart, because they literally went to the depths of hell and rescued my daughter. And whenever I received that phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning that they had located my daughter, it was then that the surrealness of everything that had happened over the last 8 days, and then my discovery of what my daughter had been exposed to, forever changed my life. I found out what sex trafficking was and what it meant that had been happening to my daughter, that men looking to pay for sex with a child over the course of 8 days. That type of perversion I could not wrap my brain around. There are a lot of things that I can get, not that I can internalize, but there are things that I can get. This I don't get. It's so perverse, and yet it is so prevalent. When my daughter was rescued, our journey to recovery and restoration began, and it is one of the most difficult journeys that you can even imagine, because as a mom, 5 years later, as you can see, I still struggle with this. I don't know how my daughter has the courage every day to go out into the world and to continue to press on. You're going to meet a survivor here shortly. And the courage that these women and girls have to go on and to not let this define them is amazing. But as a mom, what I found, a mom also who was a nurse, I worked in emergency rooms, ICU, pretty much everywhere you can in healthcare, and did most of my time in Las Vegas emergency room. And with a large indigent population, I was able to find services that were non-existent, and I was able to circumvent and navigate the system to get people what they need. And I cannot tell you how devastating and frustrating it was for me as a mom to have my daughter and not have anything available for her upon her rescue. There were no services that we knew of. Nobody even knew what we were talking about. We would go from therapist to therapist to therapist and get so far, and they'd be like, this is way over my head. I'm sorry, we can't help you. And as a mom, I couldn't understand it. And also learning the statistics of the crime, that the majority of these victims don't have a home, they don't have a family, they don't have a community that is out there looking for them. And that breaks my heart. So when my daughter went missing, I became a mom on a mission to find my daughter. And when my daughter was rescued, and I educated myself about the facts that surrounded the reason for her disappearance and how she had been exploited, I then became a mom on a mission to see to it that every single victim would have a voice. And they would have somebody somewhere fighting for them, fighting for services, fighting for collaboration across organizational and other social workers, talking to law enforcement and nonprofit organizations, everybody working together, everybody standing up and agreeing that it is wrong to have sex with a child. It is wrong to have sex with a child, for an adult to have sex with a child. And so when we can all agree upon that, we can move forward and begin to do something. And so that began my mission to do just that. And about the time that I was having this revelation for me after my daughter's rescue, there were other women within my community, again, that were having the same stirring in their heart that we need to do something about this. And so we met around my friend's kitchen table and we said, what can we do? And what we decided was, the majority of our group, they're runners. I'm not. I couldn't run from here to the door without collapsing, but they do. And I can help to coordinate. So we have Thus Run for Courage was birthed. And its purpose is to raise funds for organizations that support survivors and restorative services for survivors, as well as those organizations or programs to prevent this crime from happening, because we have to address it from multiple levels. And so we decided to put on races. Our next race is September 28th, 2013 in the Folsom area. We'd love to have you there, but that's what we do. We raise money and then we investigate. And yes, it is an investigation of organizations and programs to ensure that they're legitimate, because as a mother of a survivor, I will be damned, I'm sorry, excuse my language, but I will be damned if I will give a single cent to an organization or a program that will lead to the further victimization of a child. I won't have it. So we have an extensive vetting process, an evaluate, donate, monitor methodology. And once we have qualified a recipient, we then give them the funds, but it's not over there. We then begin to monitor that organization to ensure that they continue to be legitimate and that they continue to do what they say that they're going to do, because that is very critical. It's easy to write a check, and I don't mean to play that down, because funds are absolutely necessary. But it's one thing to write a check and give it and then not be concerned about where it goes, but there is such a thing as a financial responsibility. And if we're going to entrust funds that were entrusted to us, we want to make sure that you're doing what you said you're going to do with those funds. And so we set measurable objectives and we check in with the organizations. And going from where I was 5 years ago when my daughter was rescued to having nothing and the desperation there, that to where I am now and learning of these wonderful organizations in the Sacramento area as well as all throughout the world that are providing these services now for survivors, it is just heartwarming because I get to meet with these people and I get to see their vision, and not only that they get to paint the picture of this vision, but I get to see it. It's tangible, it's right there, and it's feet on the ground and people doing wonderful things in the name of stopping this crime. I like to encourage folks to find out what you can do to do something about this crime, because gone are the days of being able to say, I didn't know about it, because you now know. And with that knowledge comes great responsibility, and there is something for everybody to do. You don't have to go back to school unless that's what you feel called or led to do. I was a nurse, so I figured, what could I do that would be suited to my profession? And so I rally for changes on the healthcare front, and I educate providers and law enforcement and the community about the issue of this crime. We can't continue to think that it happens somewhere else, because it happens here and it's more prevalent than you think. And once your eyes have been opened, you kind of can't shut them. And things become more apparent to you as you're walking about in your daily life. I love that they have a little card on the table for the National Trafficking Hotline, because I think that that's critical. But just also as organizations to work together and individuals to find out, what is it that I do and how can I take the information that I've been given and now make a difference in my community and in my world, and a tremendous difference in the life of a survivor, and also prevention to keep. Wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to have survivors, if we never had the children victimized in the first place? That's critical, and keeping that in mind. But there also has to be corporate culpability. We have to hold these. There were hotels that were involved where you have trafficking going on, girls, children being sold for sex at your facility. We have websites that have adult services sections where these children are advertised. There's something for everybody to do. And so from the heart of a mom, a mother of a victim, I would just beg you, please find whatever it is that you can do. Don't let it just end to what you learned. Don't let it end with what you learned today. Take it, go forward, continue to educate yourself and those around you and your community, and find whatever it is that you can do to make a difference, because I promise you that you will not regret a second of that decision. Again, I cannot thank you enough for being here, and my co-founder Ashley would kill me if I didn't say for you to like us on Facebook. But also we have a table with information about our upcoming run. It would be great to have a huge group from Chico represented there in Folsom. That would just be fabulous. So thank you very much.